Friedrich Nietzsche, a name associated with ideas that shocked the world, a man who dared to challenge all moral values and beliefs that were considered absolute truth. Born in a small village in Germany, Nietzsche was a boy subjected to harsh religious discipline. Yet he rose to become a philosopher with the aspiration to change the fate of humanity. But what turned a sensitive young man into someone who dared to declare that God is dead? His life was a series of conflicts between old beliefs and the desire to free people from centuries-old constraints. Nietzsche not only observed the times he lived in, but also predicted a chaotic future where people would face an emptiness and seek a new path. The path of the Übermensch, the one who rises above the crowd, lives by their own will, and redefines all values. The concept of the Übermensch. Friedrich Nietzsche's concept of the Übermensch, meaning Superman, was one of the most daring and revolutionary philosophical ideas of the 19th century. It challenged traditional values while offering profound insights and practical applications to modern people. Many mistakenly believe that the Übermensch is an entirely original concept of Nietzsche. However, he inherited and redefined previous ideas, turning them into a unique ideal, reflecting the aspiration to transcend the limits imposed by society. Though similar to ancient philosophies of the Superman or Ralph Waldo Emerson's ideas of soul ascension, Nietzsche did not stop at spiritual transcendence. He emphasized the fierce struggle for man to achieve true freedom. The Übermensch is not a perfect individual or a superhuman figure, as many assume, but a state of being in which one completely overcomes mental slavery and creates value for themselves without relying on external moral standards. According to Nietzsche, most of humanity remains trapped in the grip of old values, living as shadows of society, controlled by fear and false moral constraints. To reach the state of Übermensch, one must dare to abandon inherited beliefs, accept the harshness of reality, and strongly overcome themselves. Nietzsche first introduced this concept in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, where the prophet Zarathustra declares that man is merely a bridge, a transitional stage between the animal and the Übermensch. To truly evolve, humans must be willing to cross the abyss of nothingness, abandon old values, accept harsh realities, and forcefully recreate meaning for their own lives. This concept is not for the masses, but for those brave and self-reliant enough to stand firm against the chaos of the world. The journey to the Übermensch. What makes the Übermensch special is that it is both apocalyptic and aspirational. After declaring God is dead, Nietzsche asserted that humans are faced with a reality filled with emptiness and must rebuild the meaning of life from scratch. The collapse of traditional religious and moral values is not the end, but an opportunity to rise to a higher level of existence. Nietzsche uses a series of symbolic images to illustrate the transformation of man on his journey to the Übermensch, most notably the three spiritual stages: the camel, the lion, and the child. The camel symbolizes submission, where one carries the burden of society, religion, and tradition without question. The lion represents rebellion and destruction, where free will awakens to reclaim sovereignty. The child embodies pure creativity, absolute freedom, and the ability to create new values from nothing. The true Übermensch is not just a breaker of old patterns, but a constant creator, one who regenerates the meaning of life in their own way. The challenge of becoming an Übermensch. Nietzsche emphasized that humanity is still stuck in the camel stage, not brave enough to move further. He saw humans as an intermediate entity trapped in fears and passivity toward life. To become the Übermensch, one must overcome the abyss of emptiness and reshape themselves without depending on any supernatural power. However, the path to the Übermensch is not for the majority. Most people prefer security over freedom, following the beaten path rather than venturing into the unknown. This is why Zarathustra, in his journey, often despairs when witnessing people denying responsibility and giving up the opportunity to become the best version of themselves. Nietzsche believed that only truly courageous individuals, those who dare to face loneliness and are willing to overcome severe challenges, can reach the state of Übermensch. Applying the Übermensch ideology in modern life. To apply Friedrich Nietzsche's Übermensch ideology to modern life requires a complete transformation of perception, attitude, and action. Becoming an Übermensch today means having the courage to break free from outdated patterns of thinking, being willing to face spiritual loneliness, and taking responsibility for shaping one's own life without relying on any predefined value system. The most important step is to truly be yourself, a unique individual, not someone who blends into the crowd or allows external standards to define their worth. This begins with questioning the values we pursue. Are they truly ours or merely societal impositions? Nietzsche argued that most people live as shadows, following pre-programmed expectations and chasing meaningless standards without ever questioning the true meaning of life. The Übermensch is strong enough to break those invisible chains and dares to shape new values that reflect their individual nature. In work and career, the Übermensch mindset can be applied by seeking autonomy and creativity rather than simply accepting pre-existing paths. Nietzsche opposed blind conformity, believing that those trapped in stereotypes could never achieve greatness. This can be understood as the courage to leave the comfort zone, explore new areas, embrace failure, and constantly look for different ways to assert oneself. However, Nietzsche also emphasized that being an Übermensch does not mean acting impulsively or irrationally. On the contrary, it requires strict discipline and mental resilience to resist temptations and external pressures. In today's world, this means rejecting an easy life, practicing self-control, avoiding meaningless social trends, and focusing on building sustainable personal value. Nietzsche once said that the strong are not those who oppress the weak, but those who control themselves, not led by trivial desires or negative emotions. The future of the Übermensch. The future of the Übermensch is not merely a philosophical ideal, but also a practical challenge for modern society. As rapid technological advancements and the decline of traditional values reshape human existence, the need for the Übermensch becomes more pressing than ever. Nietzsche did not see the Übermensch as a fixed destination, but as a continuous journey where each individual must constantly reinvent themselves and live according to their own values instead of relying on societal norms. In a world overwhelmed by information and falsehoods, being an Übermensch requires mental independence and the ability to resist mediocrity. If people continue to pursue false values and avoid responsibility, the Übermensch will remain a distant dream. But for those brave enough to assert themselves and embark on a journey of self-conquest, the Übermensch will become an eternal flame lighting the way toward